Hi there, my name is Daniel Scott, and this is the XD 2019 updates. Now, I've gone through and kind of curated this from what I feel is the most exciting updates through to some of the more obscure ones. But to be honest, in XD, all of the updates are pretty amazing. So it was kind of hard to get them in any sort of order. They're just really good. The other thing to note is that I've got upgrade videos for the other Adobe products. If they're in any interest to you as well, check those out. Also, if you want to follow along with this video, there's exercise files. There'll be a link on the page here somewhere to download those if you want to play along. Also note that if you are new to XD or maybe you're self-taught, you might want to check out my full XD course. Look for my name, Daniel Scott, and then XD, and you'll find me. All right, let's jump into the videos. All right, new feature time. And the first one is the updated home screen. Okay, not a big update. It's just you've got a recents panel here, which is actually kind of handy, but pretty typical across Adobe products. But basically it's here because of a segue to the second, but really the first main update, or my favorite, is this options that says add-ons. Holy moly, I know. So XD now has opened up the software so that other people can build plugins. And really, this is what made, say, Sketch. If you don't know Sketch, it's the alternative for XD. And what makes that super powerful is all the plugins that people have made for it. Software is great, but the plugins really help people work in a production environment. And XD now has it. Woohoo! Before we move on though, I can't show you any of these specific plugins and app integrations because this is a demo version. These aren't all working yet. These are just like an example of what's going to be in there. In the version you have in front of you, these will be different, but there will still be lots of them. I ended up having to work with a testing version at the beginning here. So what I'll do is as soon as the software's been out for say a month, I'll do an updated video. So if you search for Daniel Scott and XD add-ons, I'll do a review of all the top add-ons. But for the moment, you can see loads of different potential add-ons that can go into XD to really help your workflow. Okay, these are just the user choice as well. There's plugins, app integrations, and UI kits. Let's have a quick look at UI kits. If you click UI kits, you end up at this site. You've got the basic UI kits for Apple, Google, and Microsoft. But down here are some really nice ones that Adobe have obviously commissioned. Just beautiful and really complete. Okay, so, and they're built in for XD, which is nice. So say this one here, Navigo. Aureline Sellerman, probably pronounced that right, has done this one. I've downloaded it. You just download it onto your machine. If you're playing along with the exercise files, you'll see it in here. It's named UI Kit Navigo. I'm gonna open this one up. So I'm showing it to you for a couple of reasons. One is look at this beautiful assets panel. Okay, just amazing symbols, great character styles and colors all ready to go. If I switch to prototype and I select a bunch of it, you can see all the interactions there as well. Also, what I want to show you is where the plugins are kept. You can see here I've installed a couple of demo test ones here. So they're here, you can click on Manage or Discover. You basically end up in the same place. So these are the ones that are installed on my machine. These are all the plugins that are available at the moment. There'll be a ton more. There'll be a race for people making new ones, companies trying to get in there as well, and probably lots of people porting their plugins from Sketch into XD. Well, I hope you can see in here just basic connections with Google Sheets. Kind of lame, but oh man, I think I rely on Google Sheets for lots in my life. Have a little look through here, user testing, man, that's my favorite user testing platform, and a direct connection into here would be super helpful. Publishing out to Dribbble or say Behance to get either for your portfolio or for getting feedback is really handy. Airtable. If you've not used Airtable, super handy for getting not even just mock data, but building your own database for somebody like me who can do a little bit of front-end coding, but when it comes to database stuff, it's just impossible. Airtable is a great way of working with that, and I use it for building mock data for my XD mockups. Trello, if you use that in your production line, there's lots of cool stuff in here, and there'll be lots more. So I'm gonna wait a month and then go through and review a bunch of them, so check that out. But really, it's just a major update and a major round of applause for XD. Love it. All right, on to the next feature. Okay, the next feature is equally as amazing as the first one. I'm gonna open up a file in our exercise files. If you're playing along, open up this one, Instructor HQ UI, version 5. It's an actual project that I'm working on that I'm going to use for this demo. So what are these auto animations? Okay, basically just micro interactions. User interface feedback that just helps the user understand what they're doing and to show off how fancy your app is. So I'm going to use this little login screen. I've clicked on the little ... hit Command 3 on a Mac or Control key on a PC. I'm going to keep throwing shortcuts throughout the course just in case there's one that you don't have already. So what do I need to do is I'm going to hit Command D, Control D to get a second option. And what I'd like to do is when this button here, this login button's clicked, I'd like these to kind of, this kind of major tab to slide across. So this button here, we're going to switch to prototype view, okay, which is Control Tab, like the only shortcut that works on both Mac and PC. Control Tab switches between design and prototype. And what I want to do is when I drag this over, normally you get your action as transition, right? And it either slides across or dissolves across. Now we've got this action called Auto Animate. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at the button that we had selected. It's going to try and find button 2 on both artboards and see what's changed. Actually, it's going to look for everything on this artboard. So I'm going to say, actually, you're going to go over there. You're going to go over there. So I'm going to switch these two around. Try and line them up. Let's give it a preview to see what it looks like. So this play button here, shortcut is Command Enter on your keyboard or Control Enter. Okay, so when I click on login, it switches them around. There is actually a green button switching around. Okay, it moves over there because I want to turn it into a button now to say go back to there. Remembers the last thing I do. So hopefully now, clickety click. Cool, huh? I know it's a pretty simple interaction. We'll do some slightly more advanced stuff, but I really just wanted to get it out there and to say, as long as it's got the same name and it's the same kind of object, okay, this rectangle is not going to be able to transform into an image or into text. As long as it's the same thing and still has the same name, you can do some pretty amazing stuff. Now, one thing I want to do there is you can see the text is not changing. That works as well. So this thing's got the name of login, so does that. So over here though, I'm going to switch back to design view. I'm going to say you're going to have the gray that I'm using and you're going to now switch to the white. So he's white over here, black over here, and XD just magically switches them around. Cool, huh? Now there's no way of like adding keyframes. That's the next thing I look for. I was like, can I do keyframes? Is there an ease editor? But really, I don't know. Whoever designed the default transition stages, man, it's nice. All right, let's do something a little bit different. Oh, wow, just a little bit extra. We'll look at a couple of different micro interactions before we move on. What I want to do is when this button's clicked, I would like this arrow to kind of zoom across. So it's called arrow here. It's arrow here. It's just something I've drawn. And it doesn't matter if you're in prototype mode or design mode. I want it to kind of head off this way and I'd like it to fade out. So I'm going to lower the opacity. So I'm going to make this little arrow. He should be a bigger button, but it's okay. I'm going to hit Command Tab to go to preview. I'm going to say when that's clicked, go to this one, but use the auto animate. Preview it, give it a click, he disappears. What I'd like to do is the cross appears. Just got him handy down the bottom there. This is where I kind of need to put him on this ending option. And when he's clicked, he goes back to here and auto animates, but he's not on this one yet. Okay, so I'm going to click him, copy. And if you click on the top of the artboard, when you hit paste, instead of just clicking in anywhere, if you hit paste now, you can see it just ends up like exactly where you put it. Okay, which is nowhere near where my arrow was. I'm okay with that. I'm just gonna slide it across and lower the opacity. Just back to design, opacity down. It's not beautiful, but you get the idea, right? Cool, huh? X is in the total wrong spot. And you can do cool things like this. Over here, this one here now is red. There you go. And because this rectangle has crazy name, but it's the same crazy name as this one, let's preview it. Cross. So good. Can you offset the easing? Not at the moment, or at least not way I can work out. All right, let's look at images now. All right, zoom out. Where's my images one? Command 3, Control 3 on a PC. Okay, so I've got just some basic images that are thrown in here. What I'd like to do is they've got names. They've actually just come through from the names of the JPEGs that I brought through. So you don't actually have to specifically name them. Control D or Command D on a Mac to duplicate it. And what I'd like to do is I want to make all of use a whole bunch smaller. Now what you will notice is it's a feature we'll look at in a second. This responsive resize is going to kind of, it won't shrink them down. It's really cool. But if you hold shift while you're doing it, you can override that option. And I'm just gonna do a quick stack. You're like, there's no way this is going to happen. I'm like, yes, it is. It's going to be awesome. So you ready? And all we need to do now, switch to prototype mode and say, when you are clicked, switch to this. Use auto animate, hit preview. You ready? Oh, cool, huh? Now we need some back buttons. You can spend a bit of time now. I'm going to I am going to do one more button just to show you. So when that's clicked, it's going to jump to here and auto animate. And the animation is going to be this guy just getting a whole bunch bigger. Switch back to design mode. Send it to the back. You're going to come down here. And I should probably get some grids and stuff going. Let's hope Smart Guides gets me. And for good measure, we'll switch to prototype and get him to go back. Now, is this going to work? Let's go back to you. You? Actually, let's go back to this one. Get the full experience. Click you. Oh, too good, huh? And although I said you can't control like keyframes and stuff, you can actually do some cool stuff with, let me just move this out. Let's adjust a few of these. So this one here, I'm gonna adjust. Now we've just been using ease out. Let's do a terrible bounce. 2 seconds. Let's try when that one's clicked. Try a few different ones, ease out. I quite often just use ease in and out. It's not very exciting. We'll use snap, maybe for 1 second. And then when that one's clicked, let's have a look at a couple of these. Ease out, snap, bounce, wind up. Just for 1 second. All right, now let's give it a click. Actually, I want to start with this first one. Ready for the bounce. Bouncing goodness. So the eases are all really nice. Bouncing's not my favorite, but you can play with the timing, which is a lot to do with it. Like the easing's nice. You just got to play with the speed of these things. You can see wind up and snap. Basically, it's like an anticipation animation and like an overshoot. I love it. Both of those are a bit too slow, but you get the idea. You can make some pretty nice carousels. All right, let's do one more micro interaction before we move on. That's so good. Design view, pen tool, and I'm just gonna draw a real simple shape. Okay, a little wavy thing just because. Now, it doesn't really matter how you draw this. It could be an Illustrator, any vector drawing program. It can be outlined rectangle. So I'm just going to give it a fill color of something random. Over here, it's called path 608. You can totally leave it like that. You can give it a name. And I'm going to do two things. I'm going to change the color, which we've done before. But what I'm going to do is double click on these points here and actually switch it around. So I'm going to go you and you. I should have thought of a better example. I've racked my brain for a little bit and I was like, do a wave. But you can imagine some really cool UI icons getting animated. All of these guys, this fella. All you need to do is make sure that it can actually be reproduced in your app or in your website design. SVG animation's cool. You need to make sure everyone can actually view it. Don't give your developer that most impossible job. That's my job for my poor developer. Last thing, prototype. You go to there. And I'm gonna use ease in and out 1 second. And same for this fella to go back. Same. Ready? Wrong one. Preview this one, please. And cool, huh? Now the trouble is going to be when you're trying to do lots of things at the same time and they're all using the same ease. So if you're going to start doing complex micro interactions, you are going to end up with lots of different artboards, lots of versions. So instead of going back to this one, I generate another one that looks the same as this guy, but had this version on it. Come with me, fella. Copy, you, gone, you, paste. You're connected, please go this way. Preview you, so that only this thing animates. Such a nice animation, I love it. All right, so paths can be animated, images, text, color, and opacity. Let's get on to the next feature. Actually, quickly before we go, if you're enjoying my teaching style, I'd love to get a like from you and maybe consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Both those things really help me in what I do with my business. Also note, I've got other reviews of the 2019 software for things like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, Premiere. So go check out those after this if you like this one. And also, if you are new and you want to go through all the fundamentals of XD, I've got a full course on it. Look for my name, Daniel Scott, and have a look for my XD training course. All right, now next feature. All right, next new amazing feature is the drag gesture. So I'm going to use this one down here. I've kind of got it half started for us. So I'm going to duplicate this fella. I'm going to have two versions of it. And what I'd like to do is animate between the two using a drag. So click, hold, and drag on the phone. So what we're going to do is a couple of things. I want when it's dragging back, this text is going to disappear. So it's going to kind of move back that way for no reason. Turn the opacity down. What I also like is this to get smaller, kind of somewhere like this, and these little icons. Here you go. Icons, and the text can come with me. And just kind of tap it in a little bit. So beginning, end. So I'm going to switch to prototype view. Actually, no. First of all, we need a drag button. I can use this white rectangle, but there's lots of stuff over the top of it. So I'm going to use just a big old rectangle over the top. I'm going to make it red just so it's not confusing. What I'd like to do is I'm going to switch to prototype mode, and I'm going to say you, when you go back over here, I don't want you to use tap. I want you to use this new one called drag. And I want you to auto animate everything between the two. So we're using the same thing we did before. Make sure everything's the same names and you've moved them around. And then this fella is going to go back to appearance of 0. This thing is not going to drag out. You could get it to drag out. But actually, I'm just going to say, you go over there and you're going to be a tap. All right, so we'll start with this one, preview them. If you click on this, it comes out. Wow, slow animation. But if you drag it back in, that's the amazing thing. Cool, huh? So you drag and it does all the little animations, everything moves across. The fade out's probably not the nicest, but you get the idea, right? And I probably need to, as it's coming across as well, is this junk needs to come across. And that tap animation needs to be not as bad. 1 second, 0.3 seems nice. All right, preview, tap out, drag back in. Oh, drag. All right, I want to show you one other example just because I guess my example there is kind of easy enough to understand, and I want to show you some extra things you could do and little workarounds for auto animate. So I'm just going to grab all of this stuff, bin them. So we're going to do another kind of drag. What we'll do is we'll start with a rectangle. Okay. I'm going to put in a slider. It's not really a slider, it's just a fake slider, but that's all we really need. Something to be dragged. I'm going to duplicate it across, and all I'm going to do is change the size of this fella here. So it's the same name, but what we can do is we can say you, my friend, in prototype mode, can use this drag option. And it's going to animate between here and here. We need to do the same thing for this guy at the end. Let's give it a preview. Cool, huh? Okay, so it's just a kind of a simple slider, I guess. But you could have images playing with the opacity. You could do some cool stuff. You could have different stop points. I've only got one there, one there. Okay, so that's the drag feature. But the other thing you might do is these are the same names. You're like, okay, that's cool. But this one here, actually, I would like to, back in design mode, I like it to be a round circle. Perfect. Let's give it a preview. Okay, because it was that primitive shape, I get to change that. But let's say I want to distort it completely. So I need to break it apart because it's this primitive rectangle shape. It's not an editable path yet. To break it apart, it's Command 8 on a Mac, Control 8 on a PC, or where is it? There it is, convert to path. Okay, now, if I double click on the center, it's loads of anchor points. The trouble is now it's not going to work. Why? Because it has different names. It's now being called path 609. Preview, wrong one, you, preview, slider, doesn't know what to do. But this guy here could also, so it can't go from primitive to path, but if this guy's a primitive as well, so Command 8 or Control 8 on a PC, it's still not going to work. Why? Because he's path 610 and he's 609. So I'm just going to rename this fella 09, and hopefully now rectangle to terrible looking. It's one of those ink spot tests. I see those heads from Easter Island. Anyway, so drag is a cool new feature. I've only just started using it, and those are the kind of things that I started doing it with. I'm sure you're going to figure out loads of other cool things you could do. I'd love to see what you've done. So find me on social media. I am Bring Your Own Laptop on Instagram, or on Twitter, I am Dan Loves Adobe. If you use my name, Daniel Scott, I'm on all the other things as well. Send me the links to the things that you make. It's going to be much better than my Easter Island hit. All right, on to the next feature. All right, the next thing is something called timed transitions, and there's a couple of ways you can use it. And in this example here, you arrive at the home page, and after a few minutes, so that's the timed transition, or at least after a few seconds, it's going to start highlighting things and kind of explaining what it does. Pretty easy to get it to go. So if I click on this artboard here, switch to prototype mode, and say I want to go to here, we're going to go from trigger to time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delay it for 4 seconds before it moves over to this. And then this one is just gonna kind of scroll through whatever we decide. I'm gonna do 2 seconds just so it's nice and fast, but you probably can't read my text, even though it's Lorem Ipsum. And when it gets to the end here, it's gonna double back. So let's give this one a preview, and it just sits there for 4 seconds, and then here we go. Kind of starts highlighting things. You can skip through the buttons or just let it run through the little timer, and eventually you end up at the beginning. Now, if it's up to you, I used, when I did these transitions, I was doing this auto animate. You might go to something that's just maybe more traditional, like a transition, dissolve, transition, dissolve. Nice. Now mine here is pretty ruthless. It's pretty, it doesn't have to keep flowing through as well. You might have to get up people to say acknowledge or show me later or something like that. And mine are pretty, they take control of the whole screen. Yours might be a touch more subtle than mine. Now I don't have a specific example here, but I've seen people use it, this timed transition, to run through an animation. If you've ever done sprite sheet animation, you could start doing it here in XD. I'll show you one of Adobe's examples. Here it is here, and you can see they've got a character that's got all the different kind of movements for a running loop. You stick them each on individual artboards and link them all together using our timing function, and voila, you get quite a simple animation. I'll show it to you because you might want to add, you could have loads of artboards and get the frame rate right down. But yeah, obviously it's not a final production. Nothing in XD really is. Well, actually you can do quite a bit in XD now, but if this kind of like vector animation excites you, something like Adobe Animate would be the place to go for SVG animation. All right, let's jump to the next feature. All right, the next feature is responsive resize, and looking at the constraints it has. So I'm going to duplicate this. I'm holding down the Alt key on a PC or Option key on a Mac and dragging the name to get a duplicate. I'm gonna grab the center one here and drag it out. And let's just say I've been asked for another breakpoint for my website. It needs to be really large for like super duper iMac screens. And what has happened in the past, let's say I need this whole graphic at the top here, not the image. I need to drag it out to the right. What happened in the past, this happens. It just kind of like shrunk it down and got it bigger. Now what you'll notice by default is that responsive resize is on and it's set to auto. And it gets magic, watch this. Ready, steady, just gets bigger. If the spacing works, you can kind of see the little lines that appear. You see the lines, I can't really point at them with my mouse, but because if I let go, they disappear. You see the little lines connecting to either the right or the top. Exactly how, remember reflow? Did anybody do reflow? It's a great idea. Really hard to make work, but they've taken the best bits for this. So automatically just seems to work nicely. It's really good for getting bigger. If you're like, oh, get smaller for the mobile version, it gets you close, okay? It gets you started at least, but there's gonna be a lot of work. But getting bigger, super nice. Now you can get a little bit more hardcore. Let's say I look at all these and I start dragging it again. Can you see this beta? Okay, the beta version icon, it needs to kind of really be attached to this left-hand nav. At the moment, it automatically decided it's part of the top. Can you see the line? It says I'm connected to the top. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna click on this fella. I'm gonna go into here, go to manual, and instead of saying connect to the top, you are connected to the top and the left. And in my case, it probably only needs to be on the left. You can see here, I can give it a fixed width, or I can let it stretch. I don't wanna let it stretch. That's kind of what it did before. So if you are dragging these things around and one of them is not behaving, just click on it, switch it to manual, and decide on whether it needs to be fixed to the bottom, the right, the top, the left, a bit of both. So now hopefully when I drag it, see the little beta guy? He stays there. Cool, huh? So that's responsive resize. It's on all the time. To override it, we looked at it earlier, just hold the shift key down. Sometimes you just want to squish things up. Or just turn it off and it does the exact same thing. All right, I'm gonna turn it back on and let's get on to the next feature. All right, the next feature is you can actually start opening Illustrator files in XD. I bet you there's a lot of people out there who started life doing their mockups and their UI design in Illustrator. Perfect for it, has really cool features for it, but the big thing it's missing is any of those sort of micro interactions or any sort of interactivity. It's just kind of a dead artboard. You have to then chuck it out to InVision or something else to add the interactivity. But we know Illustrator is still useful for UI because it has such complex vector and image manipulation compared to XD. XD has everything it needs, not some of the nerdy vector stuff. So what you can do is you can do a lot of work in here and then just open it up in XD. So if you're working with my exercise files, go to File, Open, and you can just go to your exercise files. There's one called Illustrator, and it's that exact same file. The cool thing about it is it's not just dead graphics, it's fully editable. So it's brought through my artboards, all the artboard names. You can see them there. It brings through all your layers. Okay, I got 2 of them in this one. And the best bit is, watch this. Watch this. Zoom in, everything is editable. Fonts, type, cool, huh? The vector just comes through, all the images come through, and you can start making adjustments. Or you might love the process of just working in Illustrator and coming in here and just using the prototype function. And to say, when this button is clicked, go to this one. It's going to be a tap, transition, dissolve, all perfect. Preview this one. Cool, huh? In this particular case, my artboard's maybe a bit long, so I need to set my scrolling to vertical, set a viewport height, so that at least now when I preview, it's going to only preview just part of it. Here we go there. And my viewport width is really high. I don't remember what size I was working with. 400 pixels along the top. But you get the idea. Doesn't have to be for mobile, can just be for web. That lovely bit of interactions, and now timed in with those micro interactions with auto animates and the little slide and pushes, plus all the plugins. It's become an actual total workable workflow. Do your work in Illustrator, add interactivity, user feedback, comments, all through XD. All right, let's look at the next feature. All right, the next feature is something called a linked symbol. Now, if you're following along, open up the exercise files webhook 1 and webhook 2. They're 2 separate documents. They look quite the same, but often when I'm doing these like little micro site webhook things, I won't keep them all on the same artboard just because they look too similar. So I keep them in separate jobs. This one's kind of an earning download, and this one here is a free PDF download type thing. So how does this linked symbol work? So we know how symbols work, right? I'm going to select all this top graphics. I'm going to go Command K or Control K on a PC, and this is going to be my top nav. And if I copy that nav and paste it over here by clicking the top, remember, and you paste it, it goes in the exact right place. They are connected via this symbol. Okay, and let's zoom in a little bit. And if I double click it to go inside, and I have to get rid of, say, this is meant to be Academy. And the clients come back and says, you can't use that icon. It's not very good. You can see they delete off both of them. Where it gets really cool now is if I grab this person, okay, just the symbol, and I go copy, and I jump to this separate, completely separate document, click in here and hit paste, you'll see there's a nice little icon here. If the icon goes red or something seems amiss, just make sure you've saved the original one. So this is the first one here, the parent. Okay, it's called webhook 1. That's where we copied it from, and we pasted it into webhook 2. Green is good, red is bad. Another thing that I've found problems with this particular one working is if you are working with, so this file I created using this new version of XD. If you've got legacy files, maybe it's just me and my version on my computer, but I ran into problems. This linking wouldn't work across really old versions of XD. You had to kind of save them as the new version, and it started working again. So what's happened is parent, there it is over here. It's gonna be a little confusing. So this is the first one, webhook 1. If I go into here and the client comes back and says, you can't use that icon either, I love using icons, right? Because, I don't know, it looks prettier. I want a pricing icon. If you can help me, like that was as good as I got for pricing. I tried lots of things, nobody liked them. So I'm falling on my sword and I'm gonna say, actually, okay, you can go. And I'm just gonna use plain old text. So now it's gonna say pricing, because it's probably what it needs to be. Now I'm gonna hit save, that's important. Jump back to, so this is my original, jump back to the other one. Can you see it's gone blue? It says, hey, something's different. And there's a couple of things. Make sure you're on your assets panel. You can hit Command-Shift-Y to open up the assets panel, or Command-Y for layers. Command-Shift-Y for assets. And that's Control if you're on a PC. Anyway, so you'll notice blue, blue. If I hover above it, tells me what's changed, what date, from what file. And I can do a couple of things. You might be like, holy moly, what's happened? You might be working with a bunch of other people and you're like, don't mess around with my file. You have no idea where you got it from or why it's connected. You can right click it and say, actually just make this a local copy. Whew. It's still a symbol, still in your symbols library, but it's not connected to that original file. I'm gonna undo that. Let's say I have changed it. I'm like, oh man, imagine if it could double click this blue thing. It's up to date. Now it's pricing. Cool, huh? That's why a linked symbol is a bit different from just a regular symbol. They're all kind of linked, but now they're linked across documents. I'm gonna undo it, right click it. You can edit in source document, so it will jump back into my original and start working on it. You can highlight it on the canvas. I can update it, or down here, you can update them all. So there's loads of updates. So you've got this kind of like pyramid scheme of symbols, all relying off one master brand image file, which would be super smart. You could just go through and update all of the updates. All right, let's jump to, we've got 2 more features. One takes a little bit more time, but it's pretty awesome. All right, this is the quick feature. It's spelling, or at least half spelling. Now, I am the world's worst speller. This really helps me. We're back at our Instructor HQ UI. I'm gonna click on this box, hit Command 3 on a Mac, Control 3 on a PC to zoom in on it. And what ends up happening is it doesn't run a spell check like you traditionally. It's just kind of like a dynamic spelling, which I find useful. Okay, click in here with my type tool, give it a second, and you see failures, wrong. I can right click it, and it gives me actual proper spelling within here, which is super cool. Growing, you've got to be actually selected in here and give it a second. So it's more while you're typing. Okay, so it probably needs a spell check probably from my copywriter anyway, but it's less embarrassing for me. As I'm typing, there's lots of did you means. All right, let's get on to the next feature. But before we do, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd love a like. It really helps me. Subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. All that sort of stuff helps me in what I do. Also remember, I've got other reviews for 2019 updates for things like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere, they're all in there. And if you're just getting started with XD, you might want to check out my XD training course. All right, let's look at the last feature. All right, the last feature is to do with exporting for After Effects. So if you've got some basic After Effects skills, or you've been meaning to learn it, new version of XD is gonna really help. I'm gonna show you the kind of things to consider when you are exporting to After Effects. So After Effects is an animation tool if you're not sure. Okay, we can do micro interactions in here, but it's all very limited. Okay, with no timeline and no control of the easing, you might wanna jump to After Effects to really add some pizzazz. I hate that word, but I said it anyway. So the way this works, let's create a little thing. So I'm using the repeat grid just to grab a few of these because I want to show you what happens when you use repeat grids, when you go to After Effects. And if you haven't already, you can see I've just got some basic text in there. You can actually dump sample data into XD, which is cool. It doesn't really matter because I've only got 4 of them, but imagine you had hundreds of them or a few of them. You can just drag them into the values and it goes through and picks them. And all these is just standard text documents, .txt files, and the return ends up being the new value. I'm looking forward to a plugin to actually do that automatically, generate random data based on some categories, some images. That would be a cool plugin. Or maybe Airtable where you've got your own database. Can't wait. But for the moment, text documents work. So I've created this kind of repeating grid, right? And if I leave it like this and I go and export it, one thing to note is if I have this selected and go to export, so export, and if I go to After Effects, it's only going to export the thing I have selected, not the whole artboard, which could be cool, but I want this whole artboard selected. Edit, I'm going to start using the shortcut, this one here. On my Mac, that is Option Command F. And in the background, After Effects is going to open up. And like magic, you've got an artboard, well, it's a comp over here. So if you've never used After Effects, this might be a tad bit confusing. I've got a course on After Effects if you're keen. There's a motion graphics one and an animated infographics. Either one, it'll give you the skills you need to start animating these artboards. Now, what comes through? First of all, the comp size matches your artboard. So After Effects considers artboards a comp. So when I say comp, I mean artboard, I mean comp. If you are an existing After Effects user, you're gonna love it because everything is editable. Can you see over here, loads of shape layers, loads of type layers, all the masks are preserved, the layers are preserved, any booleans you've made come through. I don't think they're editable anymore, but they're the full paths. Symbols become pre-comps. Okay, so what we've got here is quite a complicated timeline. Now, if you're okay with After Effects, it's fine. And what it's done is that repeating grid is being turned into something called a pre-comp. Okay, you can see it there, repeating grid. Now you can dive into that repeating grid and start working on it. Okay, you can see here, original dashboard comp, my pre-comp. And if you're experienced, that's not going to be a drama. But if you aren't and you're like, oh, it looks confusing, what you can do is I'm going to bin all this. I'm going to show you a couple of ways of bringing it in. So I'm going to delete it, go back into XD. And what we're going to do is first of all, break apart our repeating grid. So I'm going to ungroup grid. So now if I click on it, they're just separate groups. And now if I export it, remember, click on the artboard name, Command Option F or Control Option F, dumps it all in here. And what you'll notice in here is it's a little bit easier to work with, little bit, but not the best. But I want to show you all the things. So what ends up happening is there's a group and it's the parent, and all of these things within this group are children of this parent. And if you're okay with After Effects, it's no big deal. When I move this group, everything underneath it, which is these fellas, all come along with it. But even then, that can be a little bit hard when you are new. So I'm gonna bin that again and show you probably the nicest, cleanest way to come through is I'm gonna grab that and I'm gonna turn it into a symbol, either using this little plus for symbols or I'm gonna hit Command K. So it's still a group. I'm just converting it to symbol as well. Should give it names. Where's my symbols library? Go away, missing font. This one here is going to be the 4th tile. Tab down is really handy in XD, so you don't have to keep double clicking. 2 tile, 2 tile, next one, 1 tile. So I've named them all just to make it a little bit easier in After Effects. The other thing you might do to make yourself a little easier, so it's not the symbol order, it's the layer order. So I want the tile 1 to be at the top, and then tile 2, tile 3, tile 4. This thing here, this group, this is all this top junk. I'm not going to group it. I'm actually going to select it and make it a symbol as well. Just give it a name to make After Effects easier to work with. And the ellipse by himself, he can be called ellipse. So select the artboard, export it to After Effects. Somehow magically After Effects gets it all. But if you use symbols instead of groups or your repeating grid, now we're in After Effects, and for a newbie, that is a whole lot nicer. You can get inside of these by double clicking them, but like little nested animations. If you're from Adobe Animate, think of them as symbols you can dive in and do animations inside of. But if you're a newbie, it might be just easier just to work with these kind of high level graphics. I'm gonna do a basic animation, select them all, come out a few frames. It's giving me a minute, which is quite long. So I'm gonna go out about 40 frames. I'm gonna hit the P key on my keyboard to show all of the positions. I'm gonna hit the stopwatch at almost a second. I want it to be on screen, but way back at the beginning, I'd like you to be over here. I'm just using my keyboard, holding shift so they go straight. So that's gonna be their little bit of animation. I'm gonna offset them caveman style. We're just kind of like dragging that one there, that one there, that one there. How good is my timing? Probably pretty bad. Hit the plus key to zoom in, give it a preview, but you get the idea, right? So the new version of XD has auto animate, but you can't do separate animations all at once. Not at the moment anyway. What I might do is just tidy this up. Select all my little keyframes, these little blue guys. I'm gonna right click any one of them, go to keyframe velocity, and that's the cool thing about After Effects. It's got like full control over easing and velocity. I'll just pick 75 and 75. They all change to the hourglass and just a nicer bit of animation now. And let's turn on motion blur for good measure. Motion blur on for the whole comp, turn it on for all of these guys, so that when it moves, they're kind of a bit blurry. Watch. Cool, huh? So this is perfect for interactions that just can't be done in XD, or if you're presenting to a client and you really need to kind of sex it up, you can do a lot more animation in After Effects. It's not interactive, can only be exported as a non-interactive plain old movie. So an MP4, or you could do an animated GIF, which would be perfect for your portfolio or the company's portfolio. One last thing about it is that we've just brought in the app dashboard. If I go to as long as it's open, it's going to just try and, like, let's say I want that, plus I want my onboarding. I'm going to do a nicer bit of onboarding. So I click on the artboard, do the exact same thing as before, use my shortcut to export to After Effects. You'll notice that, can you see, the cool thing about it is it brought in that artboard with the name. So I have this one, double click it, this one, double click it. So down here, I have my 2 artboards that I can animate separately. And these are the assets for the 2 artboards, symbols, images, they're all in there ready to go. So you could export all your different artboards and start animating between them, do some nice transitions, set up some cameras and some lighting, put them into live action. That's the power of After Effects. All right, so that's it for the features. We're gonna jump out to the real life Dan in a second to go through a bit of an outro and what the next steps are. I'm not sure why I talk about myself in the third person when I'm inside the computer. I feel like the real version of me, you'll see in a second, is a different person. Dan, you're a weirdo. To know is that if you're new to XD or maybe you're self-taught, you might want to check out my full course on Adobe XD. Look for my name, Daniel Scott, and XD, and you'll find that course. All right, that's us. You made it to the end. Well done. High five. I will see you in, hopefully, another video. Hi, da-da.